My name is Edwin Shirley. I'm a senior advisor at Fairview Capital Partners. I joined Fairview as a partner in 1998 with the formation of its second fund. For the next few minutes, I'll be speaking with my colleagues at Fairview about the events of the last 3 months, and particularly the past 2 weeks. The coronavirus pandemic laid bare economic and health disparities that exist in communities of color nationwide. But the death of George Floyd demonstrated all too graphically that there is, in addition, an active malevolence of law enforcement toward these communities. Larry, you commented in print on what you've called this present moment, a piece that was widely read and widely praised. What made this moment different?
Well, I think it starts with COVID-19, Ed, and the things that you just suggested, it laid bare. But for me, these aren't statistics. The pain of death is not opaque, it's not distant, it's close. I have lost friends, people that I went to elementary school with, junior high school with, high school, college, have been taken away by this horrible disease. And I have the sense that there's not been really the appropriate level of public mourning. It seems as if our leadership would rather simply keep this behind a curtain, sweep it under a rug, which suggests that somehow it doesn't matter. I mean, these fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, grandparents are gone. I was towards the end of high school, early college when Vietnam was going on. I lost friends in Vietnam. The country lost 58,000 Americans in Vietnam. We've lost twice that many people from COVID-19. And somehow there doesn't appear to be a public mourning as if these lives matter, that these people mattered.
Mm-hmm.
When the George Floyd incident occurred, and I, like millions of other Americans, watched this public murder, this execution, the casualness of it, the matter-of-factness of it, the familiarity of it, it was just, I guess for me, it was all a bit much, and I felt compelled to air some of my thoughts. And so that was my motivation.
You indicated in the piece that you felt a broader participation of the capital markets in diverse communities would be helpful. How would you explain that or describe that?
Well, let's start, Ed, with the well-known racial wealth gap in this country. I don't care whose numbers you look at, Federal Reserve or whatever, they've been tracking this for decades. The net worth of the typical white family in this country is 10 times the net worth of the typical Black family in this country. Now, there are two ways that one comes by wealth as a family. Intergenerational transfers, i.e. inheritance, or it's wealth that you accumulate, you create during your lifetime. The reasons why the typical African-American family has deficits with respect to inheritances are all too well known. I mean, 250 years of chattel slavery, 100 years of official government policy, federal and state, that prescribed opportunities for African Americans to accumulate wealth, followed by activities, many of which are too painful to recall, where white supremacists actively massacred people who had demonstrated that they could create wealth in their own communities.
Mm-hmm.
One thinks of Wilmington, North Carolina in the 1890s, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921, Rosewood, Florida, 1923. There are other examples that one could cite. So it's no mystery, if you will, why we have deficiencies with respect to accumulated wealth acquired through inheritance and intergenerational transfer. And that, by the way, is the largest single component that accounts for the difference, the gap, if you will, between wealth for typical white family and typical Black family. But then you focus on opportunities to create wealth during your lifetime. You can either do it through business activity, you can do it through your employment activities. I started my professional life as an economist, and I happen to be a labor economist. And I focused on youth labor market problems, the difficulties young people have accessing that first level of employment, if you will. And from that, all things stem. If you're able to get sustainable employment, you're able to start a family, you're able, hopefully, to acquire a home at some point, possibly a home in a decent neighborhood with decent schools. All of that inures to the benefit of your children and your children's children. You have to be able to get sustainable work in order to get on that path. Mm-hmm. Let's take the business path, entrepreneurial activity. Well, you know, capital is the lifeblood of business development. And if you don't have access to capital, it's very difficult to start successful enterprises that have an opportunity to become really profitable, significant enterprises that are going to employ lots of people. The matrix that actively engages in the process of allocating capital to various activities has systematically, over a very long period of time, this is documented, this is not new, simply not seen fit to allocate capital to entrepreneurs and activities that are resident in many of the kinds of communities that we're seeing so exposed and experiencing so much pain during this period of COVID-19. So that was what I was speaking to.
And so let's turn to Fairview for the moment. And what role did you see Fairview playing when you founded Fairview in providing a solution to this issue?
Well, let me say, first of all, I mean, there were really kind of three things top of mind for Joanne and I at the point in time when we started Fairview. First was recognizing that there was a business opportunity, that there were numbers of talented individuals who had demonstrated over a significant period of time their ability to invest institutional capital profitably with minority entrepreneurs, developing enterprises controlled by minority entrepreneurs, but they had difficulty accessing the broader capital markets. And at a time when at least a number of institutional investors were suggesting that they were having difficulty acquiring non-correlated assets for their portfolios. We thought that there was an opportunity here we could effectively bridge that chasm. We knew that particular marketplace of investors very well, and we thought if we could introduce that marketplace in a systematic fashion to institutional investors, there'd be an opportunity to create a successful investment platform in doing so. I have to say that the service dimension of what we were doing was also important and top of mind, but it wasn't a focus necessarily so much on addressing societal ills as opposed to addressing the capital gap. We were very clear about the fact that we wanted to attempt to intermediate capital from capital-rich to capital-starved, underserved environments. So in effect, we were going to be engaging in a form of democratizing the capital markets. That we were conscious of this, and that was important to us. Joanne and I, although we did not know each other as undergraduates, both happened to be graduates of Howard University. The university's motto is utilitas e veritas, veritas e utilitas, truth and service. And so it was a critical part of our education, quite frankly, to want to go out and engage in activities in a lifetime, not only to simply be successful. We were expected to go out and be leaders, to be successful in whatever it is you chose to pursue. But I think we had a very real sense that if all you accomplished in life was to be successful for yourself, and you had no impact on the communities in which you lived and worked, you brought nothing, you would have failed, quite frankly. And so, yes, we were very conscious of that, and it was important to us. And I would say the last thing that was kind of in the room, if you will, as we talked about starting Fairview, was the fact that both Joanne and I have an appetite for calculated risk-taking. And this was going to be a risky undertaking. It was not guaranteed to be successful by any stretch. We thought we had a fighting chance at it, and we were committed to doing it. So we set off to do just that.